Welcome to Magnify Your Message. Inspiration magnified.
You need to get the word out. You need to first spread awareness that, number one, there is a crisis. There is a public health epidemic. It's called the dropout crisis because they produce 80% of your crime, homicides, and homelessness, and incarceration, etc. Number two, we need to spread awareness that there is a solution because our methods have worked for 20 plus years. So we also have a solution to the crisis.
Hello and welcome to Magnify Your Message, where we explore the inspiring stories of people who are committed to changing the world for the better through their work. I'm Cheryl Hunter, and today we are diving into a conversation that's as inspiring as it is urgent and time sensitive. Our guest today is Dr. Kadhir Raja Gopal, California State Teacher of the Year and founder of Miracle University. For over 2 decades, Dr. Raja, as he is known, has dedicated his life to transforming the lives of at-risk youth, turning struggling students into scholars. Dr. Raja is on a mission to end the high school dropout crisis. And I think you're going to be as fascinated as I was to find out why that matters. One of the things, just as a sneak peek, that Dr. Raja says is the alarming statistics that link high school dropouts to crime overall and homelessness. And he reveals that approximately 1 million students every year drop out of school. It's a problem that I had no idea was so huge. You're going to love hearing why it matters and what he's doing about it. But something I want to tell you in advance is that Dr. Raja speaks from experience outside of just the classroom alone. He was once a kid on the brink of dropping out of high school himself. So grab a seat, settle in, and prepare to be uplifted, inspired, and called into action. His message is one you don't want to miss. It's definitely about more than just education, though. It's about creating a future in which every child has the chance to succeed. Prepare to be inspired by our next guest. Dr. Kadhir Raja is somebody who's making a huge difference. He's used his own journey, his own life experience to create something that is impacting countless others. Kadhir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cheryl, for having me here today.
What a treat. Would you share for people, who are you? Who do you serve? What do you provide?
So I am Dr. Kadhir Raja. I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I'm an advocate for youth. And my gift is in transforming potential high school dropouts into scholars and graduates.
That is amazing. Now, why does, in a moment, I'm going to get into how you got into this work. But first, why does it matter? Why turn around high school dropouts or potential dropouts?
Yes, so this is incredible. Research shows that 80%, nearly 80% of our crimes, homicides, incarcerated population, our unhoused population, victims of sex trafficking, nearly 80% is produced by high school dropouts. And so we know that in America, there's roughly 1 million children who drop out of high school every single year, 1 million. And those 1 million children who drop out of high school every year produce 80% of our incarcerated population, crimes, homeless, homicides, etc. So solving the dropout crisis, that will affect everybody, you and I, and our entire society.
Yes. Now, you're not just some random person here who decided, hey, I'm going to focus on helping end the dropout crisis. You're a California State Teacher of the Year. meaning you've got massive credibility. But tell everyone listening, take us back. How in the heck did you get involved in this in the first place?
Wow. Well, I would have to start with my story as a student, as a miracle student myself. So I was failing in middle school. I didn't really like school. I grew up in Chicago. Uh, I went to middle school. I was told by my parents to pass all my classes and, graduate, go to college. But for some reason, I was not interested in school. I was disengaged. I was bored in the classroom. And I was failing, and I felt that school was not for me. I felt that algebra was a foreign language and had nothing to do with me. And so, right when I was about to lose hope, right when I was about to basically quit and think that school was not for me because I was failing, I had a mentor, my mother. She came into my life and tried to reignite the desire in me to succeed. And she found a way to teach the algebra in a way that I understood. And she ignited this new life within me and this belief that I am smart, I have potential, I am not destined to be a failure, even though my teachers might have written me off as a failure. My grades indicated that I was a failure, and my state standardized test scores indicated that I was less than or inferior to my peers. And so having a mentor who really cared about me, who was able to teach in a way that I understood, that helped change my whole life, because I actually started succeeding in middle school after I was on the brink of quitting and thinking that school was not for me.
Yes.
And this turnaround experience that I had as a result of having a mentor that could speak my language and reignite the belief within myself, that experience, it inspired me to pay it forward. That experience of going from a potential high school dropout or a potential failure to a success story, that a turnaround experience that inspired me to pay it forward and to touch other kids who are also written off as
Yes.
potential dropouts.
Wow. You make it so clear that there are steps and stages here.
Yes,
It's first experiencing yourself as a failure,
yes,
and then your teachers, your standardized tests, your community, they experience the failure, and then you're written off.
yes,
I can't imagine the feat it would be for one of these kids who's already lacking in so much. They're lacking in the support. They're lacking in the self-assuredness and the self-confidence. They're lacking in the belief of those whose belief they need the most. Their teachers, mentors, elders, to
yes,
then come back from the brink of being discarded, being written off. It's that is a Herculean task. I don't know how they'd accomplish that without you. In
yes,
a moment, I'm gonna ask you to tell us more about Miracle University and the work that you do, but you said something in such a beautiful way, I wanted to touch on it.
yes,
When speaking about your mother and the mentor that she became to you, you said, "She came into my life." And what a blessing to have your mother come into your life, so
yes,
to speak, on these two blessed occasions. When you were born, and then when you were resurrected through her intervention. What a blessing
absolutely.
for you and for her, and now for this legacy of
Yes,
other students and families that you've gone on to impact.
yes,
It is really staggering to hear you speak about the 80% of incarcerated people, the 80% of crimes that are committed, the
mm,
80% of homelessness
mm, mm,
comes from high school dropouts.
mm.
So you recognized there was a problem to be solved. You had walked in the shoes of these people. And then what did you do? How was Miracle University born?
Well, when I went to college at UC Berkeley, during that time, I discovered that I had a gift. I had a gift of impacting young people, youth, because while I was in college, I was volunteering in East Oakland, California, as a mentor for young people that were at risk of dropping out or ending up on the streets. And I had a gift of connecting with other youth who were written off in East Oakland. And
Now,
so,
for anyone who's listening that doesn't know East Oakland, can you give a little feel, a little sense
yes,
of what is East Oakland like? Because if you're not from the area, you might think, oh, Northern California, it must be really fancy over there. Is,
yes.
is that the case with East
No,
Oakland?
no, no, no.
Set the
No.
record straight.
East Oakland is an inner city, an urban neighborhood that has struggled with high rates of crime, poverty, homelessness, homicide, incarceration for years. And so, Oakland is basically the crime capital of California. And so it has been struggling for years. And the neighborhood that I was a teacher in Oakland was known as the killing fields because the homicide rate was out of control. So that area of East Oakland was called the killing fields.
Wow,
And,
Kadhir.
yeah, uh, but that was my gift, and I felt that I had a calling upon me to serve youth that were written off in East Oakland, because I knew what it was like to be written off when I was
Yes.
a student in middle school in Chicago with all F's on my report card. I knew what that was like. And so I followed this instinct, the spirit that spoke to me to become a teacher. And in fact, I went against my family's wish. They wanted me to be a medical doctor. I didn't listen to them. I actually lied to them and I told them that I was in medical school, but really I was a teacher. That's really happened. And so I became a teacher in East Oakland while my family thought I was in medical school. And then I just saw that I had this gift because student after student after student that was written out as a failure, they would succeed after going through my classroom when I was a teacher in Oakland. Then I became a teacher in a continuation school in Oakland, and this was for students who had been written off and kicked out of the regular high schools. Then I became a teacher in juvenile hall, maximum security unit 1 and 2 for young people that were isolated because they were possibly on their way to prison from juvenile hall. And every single time, I was just reminded that I had this gift of connecting with youth that were failing and transforming them. And then I was a teacher at Grant High School in Sacramento. And over the course, I would say, of 10 years as a teacher, thousands of students that had 6 F's on a report card, thousands of students that had an ankle monitor on probation, thousands of students that were struggling with being in foster care, thousands of students that were struggling with being in homelessness, who were failing in school. They would transform, they would become scholars. And next thing you know, they would speak at national conferences, sharing their testimony of what it was like for them to go from failing, suspended, expelled, juvenile hall, to becoming a scholar, graduating high school, and having access to college or a career. And I became Sacramento Teacher of the Year, Sacramento County Teacher of the Year, because of my success of transforming dropouts, students that nobody wanted to deal with. And then I became California State Teacher of the Year. And during that time, when I was California State Teacher of the Year, I was speaking all over the nation, sharing my methodology of why thousands of students that were written off as failures, what was causing them to succeed. During that time, when I was California State Teacher of the Year in 2011, I met President Barack Obama and I asked him, sir, what would you like to do? What would you like me to do with this accolade of California Teacher of the Year? It sounds great. I get to speak at a whole bunch of conferences, but I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a difference. What do you want me to do? And he told me, Dr. Raja, I want you to go back to Sacramento and replicate your magic of transforming high school dropouts. I want you to replicate that throughout the city. so that not one child would ever drop out of high school. And then he told me, once you're able to eliminate the dropout crisis in Sacramento, I want you to replicate that magic city by city across the nation. But it will not be easy because there is a system that produces 1 million dropouts a year. So you're going to have to find a way, Dr. Raja, to work with that system and still replicate your magic. And so it was like a challenge that was given to me about 10 years ago. And I tried to replicate our magic while being in the system as a high school, as a principal, as an administrator. And I realized that I was more impactful, more effective, starting our own nonprofit, our own independent movement, and then work with the school system in order to reach all their dropouts. So therefore, we started our own independent organization, nonprofit. It's a movement, and we're called Miracle University. And so now what Miracle University does is we partner with high schools across the city and school districts, and we identify every child who is on the brink of dropping out, every child who has 6 Fs on the report card, who's on the verge of dropping out. And then we enroll that student with their parent permission into the Miracle University Dropout Prevention Program. And today, Miracle University Dropout Prevention Program has a 100% success rate in transforming hundreds of potential dropouts who have been referred to Miracle University. Since 2023, 130 out of 130 potential high school dropouts have all graduated and gone on to college or a career pathway after going through the Miracle University Dropout Prevention Program.
Those statistics are truly extraordinary. So how do kids who are in need of Miracle University find Miracle University?
Yes, so if anyone has a child or knows any young youth in high school who is failing or at risk of dropping out, they can go to our website, which is www.miracleuniversity.net. And there is a contact form where they can reach out to me through the website, and we will reach out back to the parent or the guardian of the child who is failing in high school. I can also share my email and other contact information.
We'll put all of that, I'll get that from you. We'll put all of that in the liner notes of the episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at this point, there are cities all across California that are wanting to expand Miracle to their city. For example, Stockton, Los Angeles, Manteca, there's already educators and community leaders who are trying to bring Miracle to their city so that we can end their dropout crisis as well.
So right now, someone would go to your website and nominate a child there. Are you working still with the school districts in Sacramento to have students referred to you right now?
Yes, yes. So we are partnering with every school district in Sacramento and the Board of Education countywide. And basically, we're partnering with every single high school and asking them for their list of students that have no chance of graduating because they're either truant or they're failing and they're on the brink of dropping out.
Okay. And then you go to those students and their parents?
Yes, yes. Once the student is referred to Miracle University, we connect with the parents, with the schools, and then we establish a partnership with the schools. And once the child is in the Miracle University program, we do our magic.
Yes. Outstanding. Kadhir, one of the things that we've done in our work together, and how we're always talking about the impact that story has.
Yes.
And on our ability to make a difference with our brand.
Yes.
And I say that because your own story about having been written off yourself and having experienced failure in your own process of becoming educated as a child yourself, what impact does sharing that story with these potential dropouts make? How do they relate to you once you share your own story?
Absolutely. Sharing our testimony, our story, it helps the students see that we can relate to them, that we have walked in their shoes. We know what it feels like to be hopeless. And it's important that we can empathize with other people. And when we have walked in their shoes and we've been through the challenge, it's a little bit easier for us to empathize with another human being. And when another human being knows that you can relate to their struggle, to their hopelessness, to being dejected, to being written off, and you still found a way with support to come out of the pit and find success despite being stuck in a pit. When you can share that testimony of coming out of a pit and finding hope, when you can share that with another person who's also in a pit, they can relate to you. It speaks to them
Yes.
because you've been in the same struggle that they have, and it speaks directly to them. And that's exactly what sometimes we all need, like a prophetic
Yes.
voice, a voice that says, I know where you've been, I've been through that struggle, and I'm going to walk with you as you get out of that struggle, because I was once in that struggle as well.
I can only imagine that if you tried to help them in a vacuum, absent your story,
Hmm.
that you'd get a ton of pushback. Don't you imagine?
Absolutely, 100%. Because sometimes, being genuine, being able to truly empathize with somebody and walk in their shoes, that really matters. If you don't have any stories or testimonies or lived testimonies, or you don't have an experience to talk about what it's like to come out of a pit, come out of a dark hole, and to succeed. If you can't, share that testimony, then people, the children, the young people, they won't take you as genuine. They won't
Yes.
really believe in you. They won't really trust you. And so building trust, a relationship, that really matters. And storytelling and sharing our testimony is essential to developing that relationship of trust.
It absolutely is. When you're saying that, it makes me think about my struggle initially to share my work on overcoming adversity with the world. I never shared the story of having been kidnapped and why I created this methodology to help people overcome adversity. I was just trying to get the message on TV so I could help people overcome adversity. Nobody cared.
Hmm.
They were like, Why don't we just go to a psychotherapist or something?" Nobody could hear it because there
Hmm.
was no story. There was nothing compelling about the work.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was helping people. Yeah, I'd worked with a lot of trafficking survivors and survivors of rape and sexual assault and violent crime, and it had worked without exception with them. But in the absence of my own story, no one cared. And I can imagine that you would
Hmm.
meet a similar brick wall from the community as well as the kids you wanted to impact if you didn't share your own story. And yet, as an educator, I can only imagine, Kadhir, that as you're initially going through your teacher training and you're going through university to become a teacher, I can only imagine that the pressure was high to be seen as a perfect student
Hmm.
who always was a perfect student. Did you find that that pressure existed?
Yes, when I was a student,
As you started becoming a teacher, studying in university to become a teacher, did you ever feel the pressure to hide your own past?
uh, that's a good question. Um, Sometimes I did, but you know, I I realized over the years that I needed to be proud of the struggle. I needed to be proud, actually, that I failed, that I was in all those special classes
Yeah.
with 10 kids in the room. And I'm glad that I was a student that had a pencil and I would throw it at the teacher because I was so bored of class. And actually, I realized that that's part of my why. How could I be How could I hide away from my why? That is part of my why. That's why I'm here. And so I need to be proud of that why. I need to stand on that why, and I need to share that testimony. And because that is my why, that's what makes my experience and passion genuine.
Yes.
And so I realized that I should not hide about it or feel ashamed or embarrassed. I should proudly share that experience of failing as part of my testimony, because that prepared me for the destination where I'm headed.
Absolutely. How very wise and insightful of you to realize that so early on. So I have to ask, at
Yes.
what point did you reveal to your parents that you were not, in fact, in medical school and that you were a teacher? And what was their response?
Um, well, I did tell them that, by the way, a year later, after a year into teaching, I told them that, by the way, I'm not in medical school, I'm a teacher. And I don't know if they really believed me. They thought I was probably just joking or kidding. Um, they weren't too happy with that statement, but I'll tell
Was
you
it
that
the lie or was it that
I
that
told him
you
the
were a
truth. I
teacher?
told him the truth that, by the way, I'm not in medical school. I've been teaching for about a year and more, and I'm going to keep doing this. And so they heard it. I don't know if they really accepted it, that that's what our son is going to do. But in a few years later, when I was California Teacher of the Year, they saw these articles in the newspaper, and they saw a billboard on Highway 50 West, and the billboard said California Teacher of the Year. And every Wells Fargo bank they went to, they had a California Teacher of the Year, and it had their son, me, on every single image. So they kept hearing about it, seeing it on the bank machine and the billboards and the newspaper. They kept hearing about it, and finally they accepted it. And I believe they were happy, and they
Dear.
accepted the fact. And I think they understood why I just told a little lie in order to pursue my passion, because at that time they wouldn't have accepted it.
Understood. You've moved me to tears. It's so inspiring. The honor that you brought to your family and to your mother who stood for you all those years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, absolutely. I'm grateful, and out of gratitude, we have an obligation to pay it forward, the blessings that we have received. And so absolutely.
Yes. So, Kadhir, at some point, you recognized that despite Barack Obama's endorsement, the state of California's endorsement, all of these accolades you were getting, it was going to take something bigger to get your message out to the world. Why did you think major media might be part of that equation?
Yes. Well, once I realized that in order to make this vision true, right? In order to actually transform all potential dropouts in the city, in the state, once I realized that I had to be an independent movement, I had to be part of an independent movement, an independent nonprofit. I couldn't be under the system anymore. I couldn't really make an impact under the system. That's when my brain started thinking that, okay, well, if you have your own independent nonprofit and your own independent movement that's going to transform all dropouts in the city, well, you need to get the word out. You need to get the word out. You need to first spread awareness that, number one, there is a crisis. There's a public health epidemic. It's called the dropout crisis, because they produce 80% of your crime, homicides, and homelessness, and incarceration, etc. So we need to spread awareness. Number two, we need to spread awareness that there is a solution, because our methods have worked for 20 plus years. So we also have a solution to the crisis. How do I get the word out? I did not know, because I was in a land of my own for the first time, meaning we had our own nonprofit and we were just building the movement up. We were not part of any system, any school system. So that's when I started just looking around and searching and sort of just meditating on how can this word and the story and the crisis and the solution, how can it get out? And that's when Cheryl Hunter and Magnify Your Message, it just landed upon me. I believe it was a Facebook ad or some ad in the internet that had Magnify Your Message and Cheryl Hunter. And when I heard your story, Cheryl, and I saw what the spirit had guided you to do with your story, with your struggle, with what you had been through, and how you used that to impact many, many, many more people. And you used your struggle, you being in the pit, to impact many, many people, and to truly spread the message of impact that many other organizations were doing. When I saw that that's what you do, and that you were genuinely driven by your own experience, that spoke to me. And it spoke to me, and it just spoke to me. And I was like, I have to reach out to Cheryl Hunter, because she understands what it's like to have an experience in your lifetime that challenges you, but it also brings out a gift. It brings out something amazing, actually. And you know what it's like to use that as a vessel to impact other people. And you know what it's like to get the message out to the right audience, the right message to the right audience. All of that just spoke to me, and no one encapsulated that like you did. And so when I read about all of those fact elements of Magnify Your Message and what you do, it spoke to me right away. And so I had to call Magnify Your Message and find out how I could better communicate the message of the dropout crisis, the solution, how I could better reach out to the media and get the word out. And so I'm just very grateful that I ran into you, Cheryl Hunter, and it all aligned together, because I needed the help of Cheryl Hunter. I needed the help of Magnify Your Message to craft our message in a succinct, impactful, storytelling, conversational manner. And I learned that all from you.
Well, Kadhir, I am honored. We all are. It is a massive acknowledgement that with the extraordinary work that you do, that you would trust us in this process.
Yeah.
So where are you now? What's next for you?
Yes. So currently, Miracle University, we have a 5-year vision to end the dropout crisis in Sacramento County. So within 5 years, the goal is there are 4,000 dropouts every year in Sacramento County. The goal is there will be zero dropouts in 5 years. We would have created a system that is sustainable, that identifies every failing child in the city and transforms them through the Miracle program. And so once we have ended the dropout crisis in Sacramento County within 5 years, our goal is to replicate the Miracle movement to every city across the nation. It is already slowly happening because other cities have heard and visited the Miracle headquarters. They've seen the videos, they've read the articles, so it's already happening. And so that's our goal, to spread the vision to every city in the country and fulfill the calling that came to me 10 years ago when I was California State Teacher of the Year. And so that's our vision.
Kadhir, thank you for being here today. What final words would you like to share with people listening to your episode?
Well, this is a beautiful opportunity for us to work together and, bring out the miracle in every child that has been written off in this nation. And if we can bring out the miracle that lies within every child, we'll be saving lives. We'll be impacting our economy, because one high school dropout costs $300,000 in their lifetime to the nation. So if we can identify and unleash the miracle within every child together, we'll be saving lives, impacting our economy. Our cities will have more peace, more productivity. Everyone wins. And so I invite everyone to be a part of this Miracle University movement. We're all in this together. So thank you.
Dr. Kadhir Raja, it is a true joy and honor to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Likewise. I hope you enjoyed Dr. Raja's insights as much as I did. Tune in next week as we explore another inspiring story of a remarkable individual who is making the world a better place through their work and their mission. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with everyone that you feel it would benefit. Thank you in advance. And when you're ready to share your story and your work with the world, I can help. Visit CherylHunter.com to learn how. I am Cheryl Hunter, and until next time, know that your message has the power to change the world.